Former president has said this about the fourth stimulus check. They want it passed now. Over 200 lawmakers are expanding the relief to millions of Americans, and Democrats and Republicans are beginning to discuss a negotiation that could send this to you. But as congressional Republicans increase discussions on social programs, a trio of Democrats in the House have reintroduced legislation that would make permanent the expanded multi-child tax credit. Even the American Family Act has been reintroduced by Representative Rosa DeLauro and Susan DeBlain. But the bill has been backed by over 200 House Democrats. The bill would expand the permanency of the expanded child tax credit as established in the American Rescue Plan. The expanded child tax credit would be expired at the end of the year, even as inflation continued to affect millions of Americans. The recently proposed bill would continue $300 monthly checks for children aged 6 and younger, while expanding the maximum credit to $250 per month and $3,000 annually. It is up from $2,000 under the previous policy. The bill also provides the full credit to children that have been left behind previously by revoking a rule limiting the refundable portion to $1,400 a year. It also eliminates the earnings requirement that previously excluded about a third of eligible children from the full credit. Representative DeLauro's office has noted that the expanded child tax credit assisted more than 60 million children and lifted nearly 4 million people out of poverty. And when they expanded and improved the child tax credit under the American Rescue Plan, it provided unprecedented economic security for families. The most recent monthly payments have helped people pay their bills and keep nutritious food on the table, afford school supplies, as well as manage mortgage or rent payments. Several Democrats have made it clear that this credit would be an investment to children and families. Advocacy groups have shown support for the bill's reintroduction. Even executive director of the Institute of Taxation said, "We are thrilled to see lawmakers prioritizing tax credits for the low and the middle income." The American Family Act comes amid Republicans' proposals to change the programs, including slashing funds for rental assistance and education programs. Folks, still, 2 states are ready to significantly ramp under the financial incentives for this bill to adopt renewable energy and EV vehicles under new laws that mimic the federal clean energy tax credits. The Minnesota lawmakers recently agreed on a $2 billion budget that dedicates hundreds of millions of dollars to cutting greenhouse gas. And what's clear about this is that Minnesota is going all in on this. About 900 million people, $900 million in Minnesota's next year budget will pay for the tax credit. And because the credit is situational, not all families will be getting the stimulus money, only certain households.
You know, first quarter of the 20th century, the poet Carl Sandburg described Chicago as a city of big shoulders. A city of big shoulders. He was describing the big shoulders of a working class American town who were building this city. At the same time, building the middle class. I'm here in Chicago today for the first quarter of the 21st century to talk about the economic vision for this country. The economy that grows the economy from the middle out, the bottom up, instead of just the top down. When that happens, everybody does well. The wealthy still do it, everybody does well. The poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do well. We all do well. This vision is a fundamental break from the economic theory that has failed. Much of the technology and machinery that is used to make these chips was designed and produced in the United States. And by uniting our skills and our technological know-how, it allows the production of chips that are critical to both our countries and are essential sectors of our global economy.
There is a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits that you have to know, folks. So continue watching this video. You definitely don't want to miss out on this. Now, first of all, Americans are finally receiving their tax refund checks from the federal government, and this could mean several big, huge changes. Tax refund represents a source of joy for millions of households, and this year the average check is about $3,000. Now, according to latest data, refunds are also used to pay down bills, start an emergency fund, or splurge on something special. Refund checks may be pleasant to receive, but they aren't free money from the government. Instead, they represent reimbursements from the IRS for taxes that workers overpaid throughout the year. Last year, that amounted to $360 billion in overpaid income, with 2 in 3 taxpayers receiving a check from the IRS. And because of the financial stakes, tax professionals and economists have engaged in a long-running debate about whether it's financially wise to get a tax refund or to have a close to a net zero tax return and get nothing back from the IRS. On one side of the debate, many experts cautioned that tax refunds represent interest-free loans that taxpayers give to the federal government. But on the flip side, other financial professionals say it may be better for some taxpayers to receive a refund because it essentially provides an enforced savings plan, which can be helpful for people who have trouble saving money. And according to experts surveyed by CBS News, it's a financially wise choice to get your money in your paycheck throughout the year. As of February 24th, the average tax refund was $3,000. That is a $3,000 interest-free loan that you are giving to the government. That is about $250 a month extra that you could add to your budget. That's similar to the monthly payments that many families with children received in 2021. This was money that was credited, reducing poverty and helping families afford childcare, transportation, and much more. Aside from using that money for household expenses, taxpayers could use that extra $250 to save for retirement. That's a big issue given that there's a massive retirement gap in the U.S., because with most Americans having far less than they'll need for a comfortable retirement. Other experts say that if you need the money on a short-term basis, sock it away in a high-interest savings account, which exceeds 4%. Now, by comparison, the IRS doesn't pay interest on tax refunds, which means you could be missing out on some extra money through a high-yield savings account or their investment vehicles. Almost half of Americans say they plan to receive their refund checks, and sometimes it's impossible to determine whether you get a tax refund. There are several governors and everybody that want to create state tax credits that provide low-income households with a little bit of cash this year. So if you're a person with low income, you could be getting stimulus, because Vermont's child tax credit provides $1,000 annually per child under 6 to families with adjusted gross incomes of up to $125,000. And now families with low or no earnings can receive its full value. Families earning between $125 and $175 receive a partial credit. In the state of New York, for instance, anti-poverty activists called on the state to increase funding for the Empire State Child Tax Credit. This current child tax credit provides a minimum of $100 and a maximum of $330 for children between the ages of 4 and 16. Advocates do say that it will help people out.
Well above the state's current minimum of $15.50 an hour. CNBC's Kate Rogers live in San Francisco. This would be a big win for fast food workers, looks like.
That's right, Chap. Advocates say the bill's passing is a major win for workers that will improve the industry's conditions in a meaningful and sweeping manner if signed into law. It comes at a time when organized labor has been successful across the food sector, from Starbucks to Chipotle and Trader Joe's. Fast food chains are notoriously difficult to organize due to high turnover and franchisee ownership.
Now, according to officials in San Antonio, Texas, there will be considered a proposal to use $50 million of revenue from the city-owned utility to provide rebates to customers. Energy bills have soared for people in Texas in recent months, as record-breaking heat forced them to use more electric. As a result, the city's revenue from CPS Energy is expected to be $75 million higher than expected. The city manager, Eric Walsh, said the city collects 13% of revenue that the utility brings in. The credit will be based on the customer's July bill, with the proposal suggesting the credit reduced from the future bill should be around 13% of what was paid in July. Walsh said the average bill for residential customers rose to $230 in July, meaning they could expect a rebate of about $31. Walsh also told reporters, "This is not going to wipe away anybody's outstanding balances. It's not going to pay anybody's complete utility bill. It is the